Joining us now is Director Ken Graham from the National Hurricane Center. Ken, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
It's so good to have you. John Gordon, mutual friend and mentor, longtime meteorologist here in Alabama, gives you a big shout out and hello. And of course, this hurricane season is predicted to be pretty active. What do you expect for this season? How does the National Hurricane Center come up with such a prediction?
Yeah, the Climate Prediction Center within NOAA here and part of the Weather Service, really looking at every indicator for a busy season. So it varies from, looking at the water temperature, looking at current, it's looking at the depth of the warmth of the water, but it's also looking at shear, the upper air patterns, and everything seems to be coming together for a pretty busy season. So that's why preparedness is going to be so key, like it is every season, but early preparedness is so important.
In the past few years, we've had plenty of big name storms such as Hurricane Matthew and others. Now for this year, hurricane season of course starts June 1st, but activity doesn't wait for a date. We already have a disturbance out there. What do you expect from this disturbance? Could it become our first named storm of the season?
Yeah, we're watching it real close. I mean, we're scheduling even the hurricane hunters to go take a peek and see what's going on in this system. But absolutely, what a reminder. I mean, even before the season starts on June 1st, we've had systems like this develop. It's going to be really interesting to see how the development transforms over the weekend. But yeah, it could become the first storm of the season. But again, what a reminder. I mean, it's upon us. And by the way, an early season storm really isn't an indicator of what is yet to come. So these predictions for a busy season isn't a prediction of landfall, but it looks like we're going to have a busy season. So getting back to that preparedness once again, just having everybody ready will be everything.
Now, you've spoken about preparedness multiple times, and of course, we've had to be prepared for a pandemic during this time. Nobody wants to think about anything else, but we have to. It's important to be prepared for hurricanes. What can people do to protect their homes, but especially what extra advice do you have for the elderly or people with children?
Yeah, I think the big advice is start early. I mean, I think it's really just identifying that risk. It's something that I do with my own family plan. It's you walk around, you see if there's any trees that could impact your home, and look at your structure. Is there any strengthening of your home that you can look at? But the other part is, where do you live? Do you live on a river? Do you live on the coast? The biggest thing here is listening to those local officials, and if they say along the coastline to evacuate, it's so critical that you listen to them. And if you think about it, these hurricanes, it's not just along the coast, it's inland. And you go back to 2017 and 2018, the leading cause of fatalities during those seasons was inland flooding. And that was 83% of the fatalities in those seasons. And by the way, half of those were in automobiles. So it's preparedness. It's knowing your risk, writing that plan, know where you're going to go, but then you take those precautions. You don't get out there, turn around, don't drown is a big saying that we've had for years, and making sure you stay safe during the storm and after. Even after the storm, it's still dangerous. Power outages and working outside, those precautions as well. There's tons of information out there. Please review it and think about it going into this hurricane season.
And where can people go to get that information that you were saying that they need to review to prepare? Where can they find a list of things that they should have together?
Yeah, we've got a bunch on our website, hurricanes.gov/prepare, and I think that's a part of it. And you go to that website, there's other links in there as well. Just work that checklist. Think about a checklist and think about where you're going to go. It's such a huge reminder that the hurricane's not just coastal, it's well inland. You can get the rain, the winds, the flooding, and tornadoes well inland. So preparedness is everything.
Absolutely. Now, I do have a question. You mentioned the hurricane hunters earlier. How important are they to discovering at least data within the storms and knowing how strong one could be?
Yeah, the hurricane hunters in the Air Force and also the NOAA hurricane hunters. The Air Force has the C-130s and NOAA's got the P-3 and also the Gulfstream 4 that flies well above the hurricane. It helps us really look at steering currents and helps us track the hurricane. But going right into the hurricane, think about it. We've got Doppler radar on the NOAA plane. We can actually put Doppler right into the middle of the storm. It's huge for us because we get information about strength, we get information about size. Size is critical. The bigger the storm and the slower the movement means more rainfall, more storm surge. Those are bigger factors often than even the wind. So that data feeds right back to us here at the Hurricane Center. It helps us issue those watches and warnings and those forecasts. They're heroes. The rest of us are trying to protect ourselves, get away from the storm. They're going right into the storm to give us the data that we need. It's absolutely amazing. So critical for our operations.
And as I mentioned earlier, you were here in Alabama for quite a period of time. What were the most intense storms that you had while you were watching over Alabama?
Yeah, just amazing amount of storms. I mean, I remember the winter storms. I remember some tornado outbreaks. Going back looking at 2002, 2003. But I also remember Ivan. I mean, you think about Ivan and the impact of not just on the coastline, but for the entire state and just the rainfall. So I remember some of the rainfall events. I remember some of the floods. And I think it's yet another reminder that it's not just on the coast. I mean, some of those floods can take place well inland. So the entire state really has to be prepared for these hurricanes because if you think about it, go back to Michael. You go back to Michael. A Category 5 storm hitting Florida, but there was tree damage, intense tree damage all the way up through central Georgia. So a different trajectory that could be Alabama. So you got to be ready for things like that.
Well, Hurricane Michael is not one that we're going to forget anytime soon. Obviously, an extremely powerful storm. We appreciate you and all that you have done for Alabama and all the Gulf states, of course, and the Eastern Seaboard as well, for the fact that you keep us prepared and safe. So thank you so much for your forecast and everything that you do for us.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.